Welcome to the FNO InsureTech Podcast, a place where movers and shakers from all points within the insurance ecosystem gather and discuss all things InsureTech. Here are your hosts, Lee Boyd and Rob Beller.
Hey, podcast world, welcome to a wonderful new edition of FNO InsureTech. I am Robert D. Beller, also known as Rob Beller.
Da Beller.
Or Beller.
Da Beller.
Or that
D. Beller.
Regum guy.
That guy.
And I'm here with Lee Boyd, who everybody just knows as Lee Boyd.
The other guy.
Or no one calls you that. In fact, some
For
people
years.
call you the most connected man in insurance.
I've
heard that
that once. I've heard it once.
You have heard
well,
that
I guess
one.
I heard it. I heard it 3 times in one setting, but who
What
knows?
do you think? What do you think about that title? The most connected man in insurance. That's pretty cool.
You know, I know a lot. I told someone the other day, they asked me if I knew people. I was like, I don't know everyone, but I'm sure I know someone who knows them. And I think that's a good way to look at it, right? We know somebody who knows them. So yeah, we
the
are
degrees of separation are narrow.
we don't have to go to 7 anymore. Like we're about 1 out. We're about 1 out, maybe 2 if you're looking at it.
So if indeed that is a thing, you're the most connected man in insurance. How did you do it?
Well, we had about 300 podcasts. We had about 250 guests who came on, and just like I was saying the other day, you actually got to talk to people, right? You don't get to know people if you don't talk to people. And so you have to get a little uncomfortable. You got to get out there. You got to talk to people, and it absolutely helps with your network. And that's something that I encourage everybody who works with me. You got to network. You got to get a little bit uncomfortable and get out there and speak to people. Go to the conferences, go to the meetings, get to know people. Life's a lot more fun whenever you know people.
I'll say this. Lee is kind of a traditional, he was, when he was younger, a traditional ops guy. He was in operations, he had a little operations team, and he liked operations, and that was the thing. And so for him to get out and to extend himself socially was not necessarily his natural thing.
It was
but
not
he got
easy.
the idea in his head that it was important, and he pursued it despite the discomfort that he might have felt. And lo and behold, when you go to any kind of industry event with Lee Boyd, lots of people are going to be walking up to you and recognizing Lee.
Well, there's so many great people.
At it.
There's so many great people, and it is so much fun to get to see people, especially past guests or friends in the industry. It's just a great time. Clients and competitors and everybody. We get to have a great time when we see each other.
And today, ironically, that we're talking about this, because today I would say we have one of the great industry schmoozers that there are. Wouldn't you agree?
I've said it once and I'll say it again. He's the mayor of insurance. He knows everybody and everybody knows him. He is a big figure.
So now we'll pause for a second. Who's the first person that comes into your mind? 3, 2, 1. Yep, you got it. That's exactly right. Tony Triola.
That's right.
The mayor of insurance is back for his 4th go-round.
Yeah, he thought it was 5th, but it's 4. We keep.
What are we going to get? What are we going to get today?
Detailed records. Today we are going to get to talk about the ecosystem, and we're going to get to dive into what Verisk is doing and how they're standardizing the ecosystem and the connections and what that means for our space. He's going to give us some great insight and some great knowledge into what he's doing, where it's been, where we're at today, and where they're going. So it's, as always, anytime you're with Tony, it's a great time.
He works for a big giant company, Verisk, that's dealing with the question of ecosystem and how to behave inside of it every single day. It's critical. It's foundational to their existence and their success. And Tony has a seat at the table of talking about and thinking about how are they going to do it? What does the future hold? And for those of us who have been around the InsureTech space for a while and been following it, in subtle ways and not so subtle ways, we've seen major changes over the past decade, major. And it ain't over. Those changes aren't over, and their relevance to the ecosystem continue.
Mm-hmm. Now, there will be a prize at the end of the podcast if you can guess the number of times that we use the word ecosystem. So
that's right.
So keep track.
Right.
Send us an email and let us know.
Hint, less than 400.
More than one.
That's the only hint I'm giving about the ecosystem.
That's right. Let's do it.
So,
let's jump in.
So, without further ado, also at the end, there's a quick little story that you have to hear.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to wait till the end.
An amazing feat of strength.
Mm-hmm. That's all. We can't give any more.
Anything away.
Yeah, don't give any more away.
Okay, a feat of strength. So without further ado, here's our dear friend and partner in the industry, Tony Triola from Verisk. Hey everybody, we are here with our very special guest. And when I say he's a special guest, I think that's accurate. What do you think, Lee? I think
it's super accurate. 4 times. This will be 4 times this person's been on.
This is 4 times. So that means he's just one away from the much desired, the rarely seen,
still back ordered
F&O InsureTech smoking jacket. Ladies
You're going to have
and
to get me on next week then. I'm going to have to come on next week.
You got to come back on for it.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I'll start smoking for the smoking jacket.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, and if you know him, you know that's accurate. Tony Triola. Welcome.
Hey,
welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome.
I'm offered, as always, honored. Long-time listener, 4th-time caller.
Fantastic.
There's just so everybody knows, our catchy little intro music and outro music, which has been the same on every episode we've ever done. Tony actually sang it before we started today.
More like
it kills a
beatbox.
karaoke.
Yeah.
Kills on a karaoke night.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, I know that tune.
I hope we recorded that.
Yeah, we did.
Anyways, welcome. Welcome. Where are you today, Tony?
Thanks. I am at my home in lovely and sunny St. Petersburg,
Ooh,
Florida.
Very nice.
It is beautiful. We love it here. We found a home. We moved here about 9 years ago. We found a home, and we love our community here. It's
beautiful. That's great. That's great. There's no place like home.
No place like home. Home is where you hang your hat.
We've been meaning to have you back on, and we appreciate you making the time to come with us. There's always things to talk about with Tony. Tony is a luminary in our industry, in the claims side, and if you know him, you know he came from the carrier side and wandered into the service provider side, if you could say that's where you are today.
Technology
but
side.
Sure. And now I feel like the pressure is really mounting to perform.
It's mounting. I'm not done.
Go on, more about me.
And he's now kind of the internal consultant. I don't know. What is your actual title, Tony?
I am the head of ecosystem partnerships for property estimating solutions at Verisk Analytics. Oh, mouthful.
That is a huge title.
Wow. So is that like exact in there? Is that exact is kind of pushed into your title?
Yeah. Several years ago, Exactware was rebranded under the Verisk house. And so we are property estimating solutions and technically no longer Exactware, although people still refer to us as Exactware all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Still name brand in my book, but I know I'm not supposed to call it that.
Everyone remembers Exactware. Yes.
So if you're like Lee and I and you're on the property claim side of our listening world out there, you know Exact and Verisk and property estimating solutions intimately because you're involved with it every day. The name comes up every day. The products come up every day. But why don't we start, for those people who work in other areas of the InsureTech world, kind of what is Verisk anyways, other than this super big company that we all know the name of?
Yeah, sure. So I'll keep it brief, but Verisk is, depending on the stock market, we're a public entity that, depending on our share value, at times we're the largest provider of data and data analytics in the entire world. We focus exclusively on the insurance marketplace globally and have operations around the globe, providing products and services and data to insurance carriers, reinsurers, contractors, brokers, you name it, both on the underwriting and the claim side.
And then with that, right, with Verisk, we most notably know Xactimate as one of the products used to help contractors and adjusters price property losses. And that's a part of the Verisk house, right?
Yes, Xactimate would be the product that most people that operate in the property claim space would know from our. That would be the one product that most companies could know in property. Yes, absolutely. We own about 80 or 90% of the valuation market on the insurance claim side. Oh. So yeah, we're big.
You're big.
And we don't take that responsibility lightly.
No, it's a big
not.
one.
It's not just the carriers, like you said. It's all kinds of entities working to provide services to carriers are also deeply involved in Verisk products as well, right?
It's across the entire insurance ecosystem globally. So insurers, regulators, third-party solutions providers, distributors, brokers, agents, reinsurers, businesses. It's hard to imagine today an insurance world that doesn't have Verisk as part of it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you've become kind of an influential piece of the Verisk puzzle. Obviously, a very large company with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of employees, thousands probably, but you have a kind of an influential, unique seat at the table. Tell us about that.
So, I've been at Verisk a little over 4 years now. I came in leading claims automation, right? Developing new products to help automate claims, not just in property, across all lines of claims. But I spent the vast majority of my career at 2 top 5 carriers. So I started, it seems like a lifetime ago. I don't know how I became the old guy. I look around, I look at my reflection and I see my mentor. I don't see me anymore. But I started off in 1997 as a property claims adjuster at Farmers Insurance. I spent the first 15 years of my career at Farmers, eventually working my way into a claims strategy position there, helping develop new products that make us better and more efficient at handling claims for our customers. And then went to go to work in 2013 for Liberty Mutual, and it was a similar role there as well. And I spent 8 years there before coming to Verisk in 2021. Wow, it's been 4 years already. It's been 4 years. So like I said, I was the head of our automation team for claims. And then somewhere around the middle of my career at Verisk, there was a huge leadership change. And Maroon Murad came in as the president of claims and really changed things up. I'll never forget was among the first asks Maroon had of me and wanted to know sort of, hey, what can we do to improve? And I pretty much laid into it. I leaned into that email quite hard. Sort of my laundry list of things that I've always wanted to do as a claims professional. Yeah. Because my job has always been defined, well, at least since 2009 at Farmers. My job's been since then to find new ways to do old things that are better, faster, and cheaper than they were before. And it doesn't only come from the insurance market. I was in the early days in 2009 when I was part of strategy, we were going around to the Consumer Electronics Show and Comdex when it was still around. If you remember Comdex, the IT show, trying to find solutions that didn't have anything to do with insurance that we could apply to insurance, right? And that bringing something that was outside of our systems, inside of our systems, or inside for testing, was a very difficult thing to do. It turns out that our ecosystem of solutions providers and service providers are only disparately connected.
Mm. Well, throughout the time of your being there, the world of this connected ecosystem kind of emerged, right? It moved from it moved from just discussions of, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could connect with this system, to kind of a reality and breaking down some barriers. So your job moved from just the claims automation to more ecosystem driven. Is that right?
Yeah. Let me share the journey with you.
Please.
So this really begins in earnest last February. So February of 2024. I mean, even though there was a shakeup in the executive leadership team, and Maroon came in, Aaron Branco became the president of Property Estimating Solutions. And I can't tell you how great of a partner Aaron has been through all of this and how supportive he's been. He's been really instrumental in this. But in February
we love Aaron Branco.
He's easy to love.
He's
the real deal, man. Super smart guy. So February, Aaron reached out to me and asked if this. I was trying to build a claims ecosystem as a sort of derivative of this automation job that I had for a while, and Aaron was very aware of it. And Aaron and I had a conversation about applying the concept that we had discussed to property estimating solutions. Because if there's a division inside of Verisk that was right from an ecosystem and developing and building out an ecosystem, it was property. So Aaron and I had a conversation last year in February, and that began a very fun journey that I'm still on, building out the ecosystem. So, and it all starts with this. If I put my claims executive hat back on, right, from a process perspective, I have one very important job, and that is to ensure that my process for claims is better, faster, and more efficient than my competition. That's for obvious reasons, right? Mm-hmm. It could be different than the competition, but it has to be better, faster, and more efficient for me, for my company, for my customers, right? So how do I do that? So I lay the process out. I pick it apart piece by piece. I find the gaps and where there's opportunity, and then I try to fill those gaps and fill those opportunities with things that make that part of the process better. So I look out mostly, usually that meant looking out to the market of third-party technical solutions and seeing what's out there. And it doesn't take very long as a claims person when you're doing this every day to realize there are a lot of solutions out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what became painfully obvious is even if there was an opportunity to improve my claims process by inserting different technology into the process and different services into the process, it was still very hard to do because the systems are so rigid. It was hard to really experiment with new technology and new services in the existing process that we had. So we always had to, if we wanted to test something, see if it was as great as we thought it was, we always had to figure that out. Like, how do we even test it? How do we get it live and in the wild to make sure that the results we think we're going to get are the ones we actually do get? And so that really back in 2009, 2010 started this journey in my head of like, how do we make this easier? How do we make this easier for everyone? And in fact, it turns out if you really do some analysis that I may still be using the best solution out there that there is for me. Mm-hmm. The problem is that our industry and the ecosystem of third-party technology, including the solutions that Verisk produces in the industry, are only minimally and disparately connected to each other. And when someone is creating a point solution, they're thinking of how do I solve this one problem that I have? They rarely think about, when they're developing these solutions, how do I solve this claim executive's process problem, right? Yeah. Because it turns out when you really get into it, you realize, when you really think about it, we don't have a solutions problem. We have a connectivity problem.
Define that for me for somebody that's not technically inclined.
So it's really a question to your question. It's how do I get these disparately and minimally connected third-party services and technology to work together as if they intended to do so?
Because that is really where the revolution is, right?
That's where the revolution is. That is next gen. Like that is where we're heading. We're trying to solve that connectivity problem, right? Future for us, and I know we'll get into the present, but future for us is how do we become an aggregator of data, services, and technology? And we have a fleeting opportunity to do so, being at the center of the valuation industry. At the end of the day, what does a carrier need to settle a claim? They need a value on that claim. And the truth is, 8 or 9 times out of 10 on a property claim, that value comes from us. And because of that, third-party services and technology have always wanted to do business with us. And knowing now what I didn't know then, and I know there's some long-held perceptions, not all of them positive, some of them are me, but I would say that the Verisk ecosystem, the Xactware ecosystem, has never been closed. But until about a year and a half ago, we didn't prioritize opening, right? If you think about pre-February of last year, the way that technology became integrated with us, some of our long-standing integrations, was that companies, third-party tech companies, would already get big, and they'd be working with large carriers or a number of carriers, and the carriers would sort of come to Verisk and say, "You have to make my job easier, and you have to work with this company and figure out a way to automate this process that is sitting outside of my central system that values a claim." Right? And so the carriers would ask us to do these things, and then Verisk would figure out in a almost bespoke manner how to affect and perfect these integrations. One at a time, from a technology perspective, from a contractual perspective, from a commercial perspective. Like everything was, they gained experience, but everything was almost starting new. What the magic that we've created starting in last February is, we've standardized this process to a great deal, and we continue to learn lessons and improve on this, right? But if you call us today, we can explain to you the kind of integrations we can perfect. We can explain to you our rate system and our fees and how they apply and what you have to do to enter our ecosystem. We have an integration team that perfects these integrations all day long and acts as a project manager for our third parties, as resources when they have questions, right? And you no longer, the big thing to me is that you no longer have to be an established player in the industry. In fact, in 2024, the vast majority of our integrations that we perfected were with startups, people with very little or no revenue. My goal, Verisk's goal, is to create an even playing field for everyone that participates in the ecosystem, whether you're big or whether you're small, whether you compete with us, whether you don't compete with us. Right? We want to level the playing field and have standard terms so that it creates sort of this Darwinism effect for technology, right? Yeah. The strong will survive, the weak will fail. And everyone has an equal shot of success because integrating with our platform, pre-integrating with our platform, and being able to enable that service with the flip of a switch for a carrier, it makes it much easier to sell your product through to the insurance carrier. And now it's on your own merit. So it's very important. This standardization provides a bunch of things, not the least of which is no one receives a competitive advantage or a disadvantage because of our terms or because of our pricing. Everyone plays fairly in the ecosystem.
Going back to a couple of the notes that you just went over there. One, we remember interviewing Mike Fulton after his kind of epic speech at one of the conferences, Xactware conferences at that time, where he was like, "We're not closed. We are open. We've never been closed. We are open and we're here." And we know it took some time. It took some time before we started hearing about this was connected or that was connected. And we
it was a strategy that made economic sense at one point in time.
But I remember too, to connect to the system, it had to be at the request of a major player, right? They had to say, this is a good play. We're going to use this. This needs to be done. But what you're telling me now is that we have moved past that to where we've organized the thoughts enough that we can do it as long as there's a business need and as long as you adhere to the data guidelines that are set forth. This is the playbook. This is the cost. This is it. So you've taken it from we want to integrate with people to this is how we integrate with people. Is that right? Did I summarize that enough?
You did a pretty okay job, Lee.
Okay.
And what I would say is,
be nice to me, for God's sake.
That is just what ChatGPT told me. So
I have known you guys for so long. It's hard to be interviewed by you because I've known you guys for so long. But you are right on the money. It's going back to the comment about Mike. Like this started with Mike, right? And this desire to do this because it's the right thing to do. for the industry. And Mike understood that, right? It took flight under Aaron's regime. And while I was here, it starts with like back in the day, identifying the open ecosystem is the way to go. Look, there is a financial component to this. We are a for-profit public company, right? And we have fiduciary responsibility to our shareholders and our investors to add value, which translates into profits. But we really win when everyone else wins, right? Providing a win for the insurance carrier, the service provider, the technology firm, and the customer. If we focus on those things, especially the customer, by the way, if we focus on those things, we will all be successful in this endeavor.
And I will say, I feel like there's a change in the ocean where we used to hear about these startups and they were like, yeah, we know we need to integrate with Verisk, but we've integrated with these other solutions because it's a little bit easier, right? We're doing it. But we know that we really need to be with Verisk. And now we hear things like, oh, yeah, no, we're with Verisk. We're going to do the others as well. But it was so difficult. It was so difficult to integrate with Verisk. Well, the illusion, the perception was, but it seems like the tide has changed where it's like, oh, yeah, no, we are with Verisk. We're also going to, play with the others.
Thanks for the segue, because I get to say, yes, the tide has changed, and a rising tide raises all ships.
Yes, I love that.
Love that. I really do love that expression, by the way. So thank you for the segue.
I prefer all boats. A rising tide lifts all boats.
Sure, we can go with that. Okay. I'll use yours, Rob, if it makes you happy.
It's like please one, half a dozen, another.
We have blown past that. And look, I'm not saying this is easy yet. In some cases, it's been easier than others, but this is a long journey for us and a long journey for the industry. And we are still learning lessons. We have gone from doing none of this to trying to create a process behind all this to make it easy, intentionally easy. We're not where I want to be yet, but we are moving in earnest in that direction. I'll do you one further. It's not just small companies that say, I need to integrate with, I have this product, I need to integrate with Verisk. We legitimately integrated with a technology provider last year that understood the importance of being connected with Verisk as they were brainstorming on what their product is going to look and feel like for the industry. So they involved us in terms of their development. They knew it. They called us just, hey, how do we get integrated? And we explained how they did it. And they said, we want to do that now. We know the product we're going to have, but we'd like to integrate. We'd like to take the integrated workflow into account as we're developing our product so that everything works cohesively together. So we legit signed a contract with a company and they paid that had not only zero revenue, but like zero product.
Well, they wanted it to be a pillar. They understood it needed to be a pillar. If you're going to get in this industry, that's one of the pillars that you have to have. If you're a software, if you're wanting to integrate, you've got to do that. So no matter what it looks like, they knew the importance.
So this isn't really a danger to the InsureTech ecosystem or environment, right? It's more of a effort of unification or standardization. I don't know the right word to use. Than it is closing doors to make things, more uniform. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Look, I'll answer it this way. Look, all claims are complex, but hardly any of them require a village like a property claim does. There's a lot of moving parts, right? It's contractors and adjusters and insurance carriers and rating agencies and reinsurance and mitigation, right? It requires all these parts to work together as efficiently as possible to serve the customer and get their life restored as quickly as we possibly can. So not only is this not a danger to the industry, we are integrating actively with products that compete with ours. I mean, a big realization and a big moment when the words came out of mouths out loud was that, look, there's one competitor that's trying to displace us as the center of the valuation world, right? besides them, by the way, they're one of our largest integrators. Besides that, every other technology out there is simply trying to add efficiency and accuracy to the valuation process. So, no, this doesn't destroy any kind of ecosystem framework, any kind of InsureTech framework. In fact, I wouldn't say ever that we were a barrier to innovation, but we are now actively trying to be a facilitator of rapid innovation, right? A lot of companies, because a lot of this didn't exist. I mean, I think we talk a lot about what's going to happen in 5 years. I have no idea. 5 years ago, I was still at Liberty Mutual. I never even imagined I'd be here doing this. 5 years is a long, long time. I'm not even going to hasten a guess where I'm going to be 5 years from now. Because 5 years ago, I would have never guessed.
5 years ago, we were still waiting on a integration, it seemed like. And look where you are now.
Yeah. But by design, we all had to work in our own little silos, right? And we all were trying to conquer the world by ourselves. Well, we are stronger together as an industry. I overuse the example of the iPhone and the iOS ecosystem. And I think a lot of people have a tendency to do so, but I think it's an important lesson because of two things. Number one is, if you go back to 2007 when Apple releases the iPhone, I mean, it was cool. There was no denying it was cool. I know we're all used to it today, but it was cool. It looked different. It felt different. It acted different. But at the end of the day, it was still a point solution. It was a phone. It was really expensive, and they were geek with enough money in their pocket. They went out and bought one, right? But it really didn't do anything that a regular flip phone didn't do at the time until a few months after Apple releases the ecosystem, right? They released the Apple Store, right? And they put a few apps in there, like the beer drinking app, that when you tilt it, beer goes down your throat. You can shake the restaurant thing, and it gives you a restaurant recommendation. But if you fast forward to today, other than having some standards around the kind of technology that can integrate in the iOS ecosystem, Apple isn't trying to control it. It's completely market driven. And I think I'm beginning to see the signs of this in our own ecosystem at Verisk, that something magical is happening. That we started off with an idea and a couple different kinds of data integrations that we could facilitate and perfect. And in the past 15 or 16 months, we've grown that to a handful of integrations that we can perfect. And now we're actually seeing people come to us and say, hey, can we do this with the data that you have? And we think really hard about whether or not it's something we can do or not. And if we can say yes, our default answer is yes, right? And we try to facilitate that because this is now being driven by market demand. Because at some point, the value is in the ecosystem. Look, when I got my last iPhone, I didn't pay for it. I don't know if you guys paid. You can pay for it still. I don't know if you guys chose to pay for your own iPhone or not. But there's enough value in the ecosystem for all ecosystem providers within the ecosystem, in the iOS ecosystem. How many times can I say ecosystem?
Quite a few.
That somebody was willing to give me a $1,200 device for free because somehow they're making money.
So let's get back to that ecosystem word, which I'll never forget. Very early when we started doing the podcast, 2019 maybe. And somebody started kicking out that word. It might have been Caribou Honig. And
it was one of the...
Oh, that's a cool word. Yeah. That's a cool word.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I still actually remember which episode it was. I can't remember his name, but it was one of the companies that helps others get started.
So tell us, when you talk about throughout the ecosystem word, what comes to your mind? What are you thinking about? Who's in that? Who's in that?
Potentially everyone could be in it. No one's ever asked that question like that from me before. The ecosystem is a plethora of interconnected data sources, technology, services, and people that are all aligned to serve one purpose. And in my ecosystem, that purpose is to resolve a claim as quickly and as accurately as you possibly can. And the ecosystem, it not only facilitates the efficient and accurate disposition of a claim, it also, this is a complex world. Adjusting claims is hard. I adjusted claims when I started this industry, and it is not an easy job. It wasn't back then. It's not now, right? But one of the things that ecosystem...
I think it's harder now.
It might be harder now. There are definitely more requirements, right? Yeah. There's definitely more visibility on claims. I can only imagine what adjusters today go through from like an auditing standpoint, their own internal. I know how much I disliked it when I was an adjuster. It has to be the transparency you have in a claim now, and the documentation that you have to have on a claim now has to make it harder to operate as an adjuster. But what this technology does and what the ecosystem can also do is it can enable that adjuster to meet those requirements, right? And to meet them faster and earlier in their career. There's a large learning curve to all of this, but this automation that's coming down the pike because of the ecosystem and because of these integrated workflows and the automation that we're going to see in the coming years, it's going to make it easier for an adjuster earlier in their career to effectively and accurately handle a claim on behalf of the customer. And I think that's amazing.
Does AI have a lot to do with that? Or is that
I'm nice to my AI. So when the machines come, I'm hoping that they take pity on me. By the way, here's an interesting exercise off the topic. If you're a user of ChatGPT or Copilot, I don't care which one it is, if you use it at all, and I take advantage of it often, ask it what it knows about you. Yeah. Like just ask it what it knows. It is insane what these systems can tell me about me that I've never told it, right?
Yeah.
So from that perspective, yes, AI definitely plays a role in this. What role, I don't know. I just know that AI plays a role not only in facilitating the disposition of a claim, right, and making that easier, but AI is probably going to get involved with designing the systems that do it, which scares me and excites me all at the same time. It's, for someone who's been around almost as long as Rob,
is that possible?
To see where we've come from a technology perspective, is to look in the rearview mirror is really,
it's crazy
how far we've come in so short a period of time. It's actually pretty amazing. I love this industry that we work in. It's given me everything that I have, and it's so fun and it's so exciting. I wish young people would really latch on to it and understand like how important this is to the world just beating on the insurance industry.
Oh, it's
right? And how much of a role we all play in making it affordable for the consumer.
Yeah. I mean, businesses can happen because of insurance, because of claims getting handled. Everything revolves around it, and nobody realizes it.
People would take far less risk if they didn't have a net.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Driving $80,000 cars or starting $1 million companies. Yeah, you're not going to unless there's a net.
It's absolutely insane. So I really take it to heart. And it's if I really believe this, and I do believe it, the logical thing for me to do is to make it easier for services and technology firms, whether I think they're any good or not, because I'm not the judge, right? The judge is the market. We're building a bunch of little baby bird nests, right? And some of these birds are going to try to fly out of the nest, and they're going to fall to their peril, and we'll never see them again. But some are going to fly and soar. And we need to foster those technologies that add value to this process and add value for people and help them do business in this industry to make it better for all of us. And if I believe that, it's then my job to make it easier for them to join an ecosystem where everything eventually will be interconnected.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Rob.
No, you go.
You raise your hand in everything. I just wanted to summarize basically and say, because we're able to put these solutions together, it's helping everybody, the greater good. I mean, I was on a call the other day that was talking about connections and, I mean, using data from one system to another and reading across to help us understand potential fraud or potential issues with policies or prior losses, like all these things. It's just so good. It's so good. And the work you're doing, I think will be in 5 years, we're going to be looking back and saying, wow, look how far we've come.
I believe so. Look, phase one is getting this technology under one roof and making it easy to do so, right? But phase two, and we're working on this. I don't know how long it's going to take, but phase two is developing for the insurance carrier customer, maybe some others too. Let's just say for now for the insurance carrier workflows, to enable an orchestration wizard where all these technologies are, where you can design your own process, your own bespoke process that makes sense to you using the technology and services you want to use, and be able to, at the microservice level, in a componentized way, if that's even a word, on a component level and on a microservice level, being able to link all these technologies together. So based on a variable event, the system decides what to do with the data. And you can design and orchestrate this workflow from a tool that is interactive, like at the business analyst level, right? So that once these services are all pre-integrated under our roofs, then you can design your own workflow using the software solutions you want to use, using the service solutions you want to use, linking them together without having to call your IT department and without having to call my IT department. And on the fly, just being able to, hey, this company's not integrated. Now they are. I want to use them. Flip a switch, drag them over into your process, and all of a sudden, they're part of your process.
Or
like that's the dream. That's the dream.
Just click on them in your app store.
Yeah.
Is very much, you're very much right. For now, the working title is the marketplace, the Verisk marketplace. Mm-hmm. But you're right. So I have this slide that I use to talk to this. And what it is, it looks like it's a workflow. Starts at the beginning of the workflow. Doesn't matter what you think the boxes are, but start with first notice of loss and with payment, 4 or 5 boxes in between, right? And so you have all these services you want to use in each one of these process boxes. And the story I tell is someone comes to you and says, hey, I want you to test me out and put me into your process. And they ask the question, are you integrated with Verisk? If they say no, they point them to a developer webpage, right? I go to developer.verisk.com or whatever the website is. And I, in an automated and a self-service way, I download all the documentation on the APIs. I sign all my agreements. I agree to all my fees. I get a sandbox set up. I start coding the integration, and I let Verisk know when it's done. And then I turn them on. And then they call the customer back, and they say, hey, can you use me now? And they flip the switch, and all of a sudden they're in the process, all without us being involved, without even making a phone call to Verisk, without anyone making a phone call to Verisk.
So Tony, as we get ready to wrap up here, right, you have a goal in mind, you have an end in mind, you have somewhere you're trying to get to. So what are you doing? What are the tasks you're doing to help you get to where you want to be in this whole journey of ecosystem integrations?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
So keep in mind this whole thing ends in a process where people can integrate without calling us. The integration can be turned on without calling us, and the carrier can introduce a new service provider or technology into the process without calling us, or calling anyone, right? So what we're doing are these things. First is to open up the ecosystem, which we've largely done, right? Companies big and small, across the value stream, even our competition is in our ecosystem, right? It's a big part of our ecosystem. It's first. Simplifying our contracting process is a big part of it. We've all been involved in that. How long does it take to get through contracting, especially with any two companies of any size? It just takes forever. So we've already trimmed off what I call the pointy bits from our integration agreements. We're learning lessons every single day, and we're refining what we do. But we have made the contracting process a whole lot easier now. Third thing is straightforward pricing. So when you come in and you want to integrate with us and you want to know what it's going to cost, I now have rate cards, right, that are tied to volume. And more volume you commit, the lower your price, right? So how much business do you think you're going to do with us? And here's your rate, depending on the transaction, depending on the type of integration you want to perfect. Reporting and analytics is a big piece in this, especially for our larger customers. And it just stands to reason, I have more questions and answers on this piece, but it stands to reason that if all this data sits in one environment, then I can do a lot more with that data. We all talk to each other more effectively under one roof, right? And then the last thing that's going to help us get to this nirvana is modernizing our integration layer, right? So we haven't always been a company that had an API first methodology in our software development, and we're playing some catch up now. But we have devoted resources and allocated money. And over the coming years, you're going to see the things you can do with our data increase substantially as time goes on. And all ends in this nirvana where self-served integrations, self-served workflow orchestration. It's going to be a very different place in a few years.
That's fantastic.
Hey, you're a friend, you're a buddy, a good friend, a brother from a different mother. So we got to have 1 minute. We're gonna ask you to do an impossible task, particularly knowing you, Tony Triola. And that is, you did something extraordinary last year. Tell everybody what it was.
Yeah, we want to hear about your amazing trip.
Oh my gosh, you're really gonna have to edit this. All right, so I'm an avid cyclist. And because no one thought I could do it, I booked like the hardest cycling trip I could find and pretty much rode my bicycle in 6 days from Marseille, France to Geneva, Switzerland.
Not just the hardest one, like think of the hardest bicycle ride that anyone can do, and this is harder. Like it's that hard.
It was the most fulfilling and rewarding and honestly sort of life-changing experiences in my life that I have no desire to do again. I thought I was going to die, so much so that I actually made like one of those videos. Like I was on top of the mountain, I'd run out of food, I'd run out of water. I literally broke into a French guy's house who was on vacation committed. Like this old guy said, that guy has water, but you have to go inside. He's not there. The door's not locked. So I literally went to a strange French man's home and got water out of the kitchen sink because I was out of water. I made a video. If anyone finds this, please tell my family I love them. It was miserable. In 6 days, it was 350 miles and 47,000 feet of elevation gain.
Oh my God.
In 6 days. I spent 9 hours on the bike one day. It was rewarding. But I literally did it because even my wife said, there's no way you can do this. And now I can cross my arms and say,
you did it.
I did it. But I have no desire to do it yet.
Well, congratulations. Congratulations, Tony. As a person who's been on a bicycle once or twice, congratulations. That is a super hard feat. And you did it.
You know, COVID's a weird thing. This whole thing starts in COVID. And Rob Beller, you taught me one of the most important lessons I ever learned about a bicycle.
What is that?
You can't take a meeting, not even with headphones on, while you're riding a bike. For some reason, I used to call Rob on every bike ride. And Rob would just get so frustrated with me and say, like, I can't hear a word you're saying. I'm leaving now. I'm getting off this.
That is a Rob Beller phrase. I cannot hear you. We will end this now.
I cannot hear you. I'm leaving now.
Oh my God.
It's true, isn't it?
That's opposed to all the people who have me on the phone and can't hear me.
Yeah. He got real mad when I told him I couldn't hear him the other day.
COVID was a weird thing. It made you think you could do anything as long as it was outside.
You know,
yeah.
It was, honestly, Tony, it was remarkably inspirational to watch that. And Tony would send me pictures and even videos most days. So I got to kind of follow along with his progress. And first of all, the scenery was extraordinary. It's like the Tour de France kind of landscapes.
Yeah.
Everything was a picture. Everything was a framed picture. It was beautiful.
But to actually do it, remarkable. I bow down to your bicycle greatness.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Rob Beller. It was honestly one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done in my life. So thank you for asking about it. It really means a lot.
Good.
Thanks, Rob.
And you want to know what? There's more in your future, including the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. And once again, we thank you. Just one more to your smoking jacket.
One more.
You have to book me next week.
That's right. It'll come soon.
Actually, you're going to be on a podcast in the not too distant future with a good friend of ours, Astrid.
Oh, I love Astrid.
Yeah.
Hi, Astrid.
Everybody can look forward to that.
I know she's your groupie, so I'm saying hi to Astrid. I know she's listening.
You know it.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much for being on, Tony.
Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your week. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Great story. At the end, great story.
Yeah.
But also a great story from an industry perspective.
Yeah. I always love getting to talk to Tony. In fact, last week I got to talk to him at a conference, at an industry conference, and he gave me a little insight into some of the things that they're doing. It's just really neat and interesting work and needed work. It's always great to have Tony on. Always great.
Yeah. It would be cool to work in a place where the decisions that you're making are so consequential.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And bear so heavily on the future of where the industry is going.
I agree. It's huge.
I mean, Verisk swings a big bat. And so that's really cool. And I'm happy for Tony that he's in that spot. I think he's
exciting.
Seems
like an exciting job.
An exciting job.
Yeah.
And how about that bike ride?
Man, I mean, the dude is an athlete. To do something like that, most people don't understand like the incline that something like that needs. Like I ride up a hill and I feel like my heart. He rode up is going to die. He rode up a hill. He rode up a mountain for multiple days.
He
broke into a home distilled water. I mean, he was in death's door. No, I don't know if he was there, but yeah, it's a feat of strength. So thank you for sharing that, Tony.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. And thank you all for being with us again. It's always a pleasure to share a little time with you. And thank you to Al Moya, who is slowly transitioning from being our producer for how long, Al? I mean, a super long time.
He's in the back room, so he can't actually talk to you, but like a long time. 5-6 years.
A long time.
Yeah. In fact, maybe we should do a podcast with just Al. Aldrin.
We can't tell you how much we thank you and we appreciate you. And it's been great to watch you grow up and mature into your current role in the marketing department. So
thank you, Aldrin.
All the best and thank you. And we'll say what we say every time.
Goodbye, everybody.